Hey, welcome back everybody. This is the Life Plays coming at you with another deck tech here. This one is for Averna, the Chaos Bloom. I drew all over mine. So it's a little messy. So essentially Averna is Chaos Tribal. She costs a blue, a green, and a red. And she's a 4/2, and essentially what happens is whenever you Cascade, you can put a land from among the cascaded cards into play tapped. So really interesting stuff. Just gonna do a lot of randomness with Cascade, and super fun. So we're going to start off with some ramp. We're running Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, and Sad Boy. So this is our ramp plan. We got our classics, and then we got some more classics here. And really the big thing is Averna ramps us a lot. Just, you cast her out, and then you just start cascading, and you get lands, and just get tons of value off that. But it's also very different every time, because you're not really controlling it. That's what I love and hate about Cascade, is it's not very... You can't really pick what your outcomes are going to be unless you plan out your Cascade lines, but this one is just more for fun. This is just a Cascade list to do Cascade. We got removal. So we're running a Nature's Claim, Rapid Hybridization, Pongify, Reality Shift, Reclamation Shage, Beast Within, and then I'm also running Chain Reaction. Just because it's 4 mana, we can Cascade into it pretty easy, and it can just wipe the field pretty good when we need it. Sometimes we're pretty committed to the board, so there's a lot of times where we don't really want the whole field to be wrathed, but you gotta have one just in case. So I just chose this one because I thought it'd be fun. And I never get to play it. Crystal Shard. So Crystal Shard is in here because you can pay 1 blue, tap it, bounce one of your cascading creatures to your hand because you're just not going to pay the 1, and then you can keep cascading the same big target. So you can reuse cascades and keep the ones in your hand. So that way, if that one gets removed or Crystal Shard gets removed, you still have gas. So, same thing with Temur Sabertooth. These two are both in here to bounce our Cascade targets that we've already played to replay them. This is just a fun card. I've had a lot of fun playing with Guided Passage before. I think it just brings a lot of interesting stuff to the table. And for 3 mana, you reveal... Someone gets to look at your deck, but whatever. And an opponent chooses a creature, a land, and a non-creature non-land. So it's a 3 mana draw 3, and if they try and get the worst stuff in your deck, that's still a land, a creature, and a non-land. So it's pretty nice. And it's just fun. It's a fun card that people always don't expect because it's so weird. And then we're going into our more powerful win conditions. So you could definitely, if you wanted to scale this deck back a little, you could remove these. And if you also wanted to budget this deck a little bit more, you could remove these here. So I'm running Perforos, God of the Forge, just because when we're cascading and we're just dropping, it helps to just start pinging everybody. And that's kind of the same vein as Terror of the Peak. So I know with Thunder Junction he dropped a little bit, so that's nice. And he's super good in this list, right? Just because whenever another creature ETBs, just Terror of the Peak starts smashing people. And it can be so good. And then we're running Overwhelming Stampede, because we are a Cascade, but we also have a lot of Landfall synergies, so... Just having this is often a way to just be like, all right, you guys ready to go to the next game? Cool. So what are some value engines for Cascade, right? Like what else can we do outside of just cascading? So a lot of that is playing things from exile. So we are running Faldorn. I think this is a really interesting one for 3 mana. Whenever you cast a spell from exile or a land enters the battlefield under your control from exile, so with Averna's trigger, you make a wolf. And then you can discard cards, exile the top card, play it, so it gives you a little bit of card selection off the top, so that's pretty nice too, if you just really need that. Wild Magic Sorcerer, oh, lovely. First card you cast from exile, each turn has Cascade, so if you cast a big Cascade, and then you get one that has that, then it gets it again, and then it's double Cascade, and this card can really just start filling your board like crazy. Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter. So when you cast your first spell each turn, so you could, we have some flash stuff, we have instants and sorceries, so there's interesting things, but whenever you cast your first spell each turn, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land with converted CMC, mana cost less than the spell, you can cast it without paying its mana, and then if you don't cast it, you still get to draw it. So that's pretty cool. I think that's a really powerhousey kind of card. Thrix the Sudden Storm. Running this, it's a little foily, so it can be a little hard to read. Let me scoot it. So essentially it has Flash, which we were just talking about, but also spells you cast with CMC 5 or greater cost 1 less and can't be countered. So I love having this guy out. It makes it so if I'm going to cast an Apex Devastator, I don't have to worry about it being countered. So pretty nice. Gandalf, Westward Voyager. This one's really interesting. It's a super weird card. There's like a billion Gandalfs, and they all do ridiculously weird things. But this one, whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, which is a lot of our stuff, each opponent reveals the top card of their library. And then if any of those cards share a card type, which will probably be a creature for us, then you can copy that spell. And then choose new targets. Otherwise, each opponent draws a card, and then you draw a card. So really, really nice. I like this. Nalfeshni, if you're playing any sort of deck that plays things from exile, this can be a really excellent include. It's flying. I hate the art. It drives me crazy. But either way, whenever you cast a spell from exile, you copy it, and then you can choose new targets. Or if it's a permanent, you just copy the permanent and it gains haste, and then it sacks itself at the beginning of the next end step. Or at the beginning of the end step, you sacrifice it. So really, really fun. And then we got Kodama of the East Tree. This guy is so cool. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put something, a permanent, with equal or lesser CMC from your hand onto the battlefield. So you can do a lot of weird, janky stuff with like bounce lands with our landfall. So you can bounce a bounce land, returns a land, and then since the bounce land wasn't put in, you can put another land in. And you can look up the loop for that to just keep doing landfall triggers. It's nice. It's also just a good card to get some of our really big boy Cascade cards out. If we drop a 6-drop, it's equal or less. So if we have a lot of 5-drops, we can do 5 and a 5. So pretty nice. AC. Just a big beater. I think it fits. We can play extra lands. Whenever a land enters, we draw cards. We're already running a lot of landfall synergy anyway. Same thing with Bonnie Paul. Just really strong for a landfall deck. At least I think so. When it enters, you make the Ox, which is as big as your lands. And then whenever you attack, you get to draw a card and put a land into play from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. Not tapped. So pretty wild. Pretty wild, Bonnie. Coma. Coma is a big baddie serpent that just, Coma can win games on its own. It just provides so much value. It can't be countered. And then it just makes Coma coils, and those, if you get out of hand with those, you can just keep it indestructible, start tapping stuff down, just really be able to get in and win the game. Coma is a menace. Up the Beanstalk. We're going to cast a lot of things that are 5 or greater. Just that's the whole game plan here, is ramp out, start cascading, right? And Up the Beanstalk really helps with that, because we get to draw, and then whenever that happens, we get to draw a card. So, really nice. Garrick's Uprising. It would suck to be in a situation where we're dropping all these big beaters and they can't get through because someone has a bunch of armies of 1/1s, or they can just keep chump blocking us. So let's give them trample, and gives us card draw. So we're running some Garrick's Uprising. Love that one. Or Garrick's Surprising, whatever you want to say. Scoot Swarm. This gets us into our lands, our landfall that we're really focused on. So Scoot Swarm is really amazing. Obviously, Scoot Swarm has won games, especially with an overwhelming stampede and one big thing and just swarm the board. Tatiova, super fun card. Whenever a land ETBs, you just draw, gain life. Really, really good when we're playing a lot of lands. Rampaging Baloths. What's better than a 6/6? A bunch of 4/4s that the 6/6 makes. Yeah. And it's a landfall, so that's nice. Royal Elemental. You can definitely swap this out. This is a very flexible slot. I'm thinking about swapping it out. It's very good in the list. It's just when I get to 6, I feel like I'd rather just play a Cascade card because I already have Averna out most times. And there's been a lot of times where I could play Royal Elemental, play a land, grab something, but I'm just not super sure. It feels kind of a little Winmore-y, but I do just love it so much that I have kept it in. Because it's such a fun threat, it can answer things that other things can't by just stealing them. Omnath, Locus of Rage. This is such a big, bad elemental, right? Whenever a land comes into play, you get a 5/5. And whenever this thing or another elemental you control dies, it just deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So you can just start slamming. And we have a lot of elementals. This is an elemental. We got so many. We have some other ones in the Cascade pile, too. Avenger of Zendi. Elemental. Look at that. See? It came back. We're circling back. But this is another circumstance where, it's just going to make a ton of plants, buff the plants, just because we're dropping so many lands all the time. I've never played this deck and not just had a ton of mana, right? Because, if Averna's out and you're cascading, you're just making extra land drops all the time, because it's each cascade trigger, and most times you cascade into a cascade, so it's really, really fun. Ooh, and this gets us into our Cascade stuff. I've said that word a billion times, but it's the whole deck, so it makes sense. So Violent Outburst. This one is for 3, and then it just buffs things. So typically with these smaller cascades, what I'm trying to do is hit like it's either going to hit ramp or it's going to hit removal. You know, there's been so many times where I've been like, oh, I really got to get rid of that problem. Let me cast like a Bloodbright Elf, and then it goes and cascades into a 3-drop, and then it cascades into a rapid hybridization. So I developed my board and I murdered the thing. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Shardless Agent. Just pretty simple here, you know, 3 mana, Cascade, pretty good. Bloodbraid Elf, classic, 4 mana Cascade. Has haste, which, I don't know, hasn't come in handy for me yet, but could for you. Who knows? Unexpected Results. So this isn't Cascade, but it's a really weird card that I wanted to throw in here because it's just so interesting. So you shuffle your library, and then you reveal the top card. If it's a non-land card, you can just cast it without paying its mana cost. And if it's a land, you can just put it into the battlefield, and then you bounce this to your hand. So if you're never without something to do, you know, you got 4 mana, you just be like, all right, Unexpected Results. Shuffle, you're either ramping or getting something. So I think it's fun. Throes of Chaos. It's a Cascade with Retrace, man. That's so cool. Whenever you cast this card, you can cast it from your graveyard by discarding a land in addition to paying its mana cost. So this is very recurable Cascade, which is what some of them have, and we're trying to get as many of those as we possibly can. Noise Marine. It's just in here for Cascade, and then it does some interesting things too. When it ETBs, it can just deal damage to equal to the number of spells you've cast this turn to any target. So it can be cool. It can be a little bit of removal. It just really depends on when you get it, because sometimes we just hit it in a second stack of Cascade and it deals 2. Still something though. Natural Reclamation. It's just removal, but it has what we need on it. Bloodbraid Challenger. So got the things. It's got haste. It's like a little bit better Bloodbraid Elf, right? And then it also has escape. So if it does die, we have access to another Cascade in the graveyard. So I always try and abuse the things that can be reused before I start, you know, dropping gas from my hand. So pretty fun. Heralds of Tzeentch. I don't even know. It's a pretty wild one, but it's a flying Cascader, so that's kind of fun. It's neat. This is crazy, dude. Bigger on the inside. You enchant a land, you enchant an artifact, whichever one you want. But Enchanted Permanent now taps for 2 mana of any one color, and then it gives it Cascade. Or, well, the next spell you cast this turn has Cascade, so you can give one thing double instances of it, which can just be awesome. I've used this to add an extra instance to, like, Apex Devastator, and then you just boom, you just run away. It's so fun. Emoti, probably one of the best cards in our list, because it gives an extra instance of Cascade to all spells with mana value 6 or greater, which is so good, and itself does it, so that's nice. So pretty wild. Forceful Denial, it's just a counterspell, but it does what we need. Into the Time Vortex. This one's awesome, right? It has rebound, so you get value from it, and then it just comes back for more value. Value round 2. Sweet Gloom Recluse. I keep saying gloom when it's gum. Sweet Gum Recluse. But this one's super fun with the flash aspect of it. You know, I've had many times where I've been playing this list and I just have 6 mana up, and they're like, well, I don't like that. So maybe they swing something at me, and then you just throw this at there, and it's like, okay, well, it has reach, flash, Cascade, and then it buffs anything if you got another thing. It's pretty fun. I like it. Aurora Phoenix. It has, whenever you cast a spell with Cascade, you can return this from your graveyard to your hand. So just more recursion with this guy. It's also a flying 5/3, so it's pretty nice for us. But yeah, Value Town. Sakashima's Protege. Absolutely love this card, right? It can copy any permanent that entered the battlefield this turn, and it has flash. So I've used this to copy like a Ghostly Prison or just anything. It's so good. Like, get a Rhystic Study. You know, oh, you cast it, flash. You Cascade, and I get a Rhystic Study. It's the best thing that entered on someone's turn. Or if someone drops a huge bomb, then you also get one. It's so good. And it just fits the theme so well. Boarding Party, just a 6-cost Cascade. That's all we really want it for. Volcanic Torrent. This one has, you know, done a lot of damage for me. It's done a lot of work. You know, when it deals X damage equal to creatures and planeswalkers your opponent's control, where X is the number of spells you've cast this turn. So, you know, if you can cast like one thing, or even just this is easily at the minimum a 2, and most times it can go to 3 just by cascading down the line of our cards that we have. This one's one of the best ones that we have, just because it inherently has its own bounce effect, right? So as soon as you get, I mean, it's a pretty late game thing, but we also ramp so hard that pretty early you can get to a point where you're like, all right, on my turn, Ethereum Horn Sorcerer, and then you just Cascade, get a land, maybe do it again, and then on your opponent's, like the one to your right, on their end step, you just bounce this, and then you just do it again. It's so fun. Ingenuity Engine, I really like it. You know, it's 7 mana Cascade, and it does have the ability to sacrifice an artifact, return target artifact you control to its owner's hand. So we do have the capacity to sack something and bounce this, or, you know, we can return any artifacts. We can even sack itself, bounce one of our bigger Cascade targets. There's some flexibility here, so it's interesting to think about. Anointed Altasaur, or Annoyed Altasaur. Just big tramply Cascadey boy. Maelstrom Colossus. So here's an example of a creature we could either sack to bounce something else, or we could sack it, the Ingenuity Engine to bounce Maelstrom Colossus, and then have this for a Cascade target. So pretty nice. And then our big bad boy, right? Maelstrom Wanderer, double Cascade, creatures you control have haste. You drop this bad boy, it just, man, people are not cool with it. It often just goes crazy. And if you have Averna out too, it often just ramps us, creates a board state, makes us an issue. So I really like this card. It's so fun to cast. Same thing with Call Forth the Tempest. You know, when I opened this in the whatever Lord of the Rings thing it came out of, I can't even remember. It's the one with the Witch King, I think. Either way, with Call Forth the Tempest, so fun, right? It double cascades for 8, and then it deals damage to each creature your opponent controls equal to the total mana value of other spells you've cast this turn. So this can often just decimate their boards and build yours up. So fun to cast this card. Same thing with Apex Devastator, right? Cascade 4 times, that's wild. For 10, you just get so much stuff. You cast this, you just are so far ahead. And then Let the Galaxy Burn, right? It deals X damage, X plus 2 damage to each creature that didn't enter the battlefield this turn. So it lets you, in the late game, you can really just like cascade off and just wipe out the board. It's just nice. And then we'll get into our lands, right? You know, we're dropping lots of lands. What kind of lands do we be dropping? I'm running Cavern Souls. We name Elemental for a lot of reasons, you know, make our commander uncounterable, make a lot of other things uncounterable, like our Maelstrom Wanderer. So that's one of the biggest reasons that we are running it that way. And then I've got Exotic Orchard, Command Tower, Ketria Triome. So those are our triple mana bases. I'm running Simic Growth Chamber. It's the only Simic land that I'm running. I'm running Steam Vents, Sulphur Falls, Shivan Reef, Is It Boiler Works, and Training Center. Gotta run all the bounce lands just for... It's just, we have lots of landfall synergy, and our lands are just coming in from the library, so it's nice to bounce them. And then it's also good just to have as many options as I wanted. I think I run 3 just for Kodama, so you can just do that kind of nonsense. So yeah, we're running Gruul Turf, Spire Garden, Cinder Glade, Stomping Grounds. And then we're just running our basics here. So we are running a lot of basics. I chose to run one of a bunch of different types just because it felt fun, you know? Felt like a good time. So those are our mountain choices. And it also, I like when there's any sort of like little thing in a deck that makes it so I have something to look for. So this one has like cool basic arts and cascade targets, you know? So I can keep this deck around because it didn't cost too much to assemble. And then we're running some pretty forests, right? I love these the Unfinity forests. Love the Unfinity lands in general. They're super good. The unlands are just nice, right? Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. I have an unmountain somewhere, but don't know where it is. Islands. Honestly, favorite island is right there. Look at that bad boy. Oh, it's so pretty. These used to be. But then, I don't know. It's probably between these two. I really like them. But that will do it for Averna, the Chaos Bloom. She's super fun. Really an interesting time to bust out at a table. And, you know, when people ask, like, oh, how strong is your deck? It's like, well, it's really just... It could be really good, or I could cascade into nothing. So it's really so variable that this deck, I think, can hang in a lot of different situations. I've had it go crazy. I've had it just kind of do, you know, nonsense cascade stuff. So if that's what you're into, and a lot of randomness, and you don't want to play like Joda, then this one's been a really fun switch for me. So hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!